Okay, let's get started. We have recorded the last two classes, and I've begun the recording for today's class. When they are up on YouTube, which I hope will be next week, I will email y'all with the link to them. Adrian in our support department is managing the videos now and putting them up on YouTube. When he gets done, I will let you all know ASAP. Today, as I mentioned, we're going to be looking at billing, but I had a couple of things to clean up first, left over from yesterday. So yesterday we were looking at daily routines. So we started with get work, print route sheets, and then record the work. Well, there are a couple of things here that we didn't really look at. One is the ability to add notes to a job you've done. You can then, so Bob Hope, I want to add a little more information for the invoice notes. So I hit job notes here, and I could then type in more invoice note info. And now you've got an option here. Now, first of all, notice you've got several different note fields available to you. And then you've got save this time or save permanently. Now, in this case, I'm going to hit save this time just for this invoice note. But let's say that, sadly, the dog died, and you can delete this note from the route sheet notes. You could then delete it, hit save permanently. That would then delete the note in the job itself, so it would no longer appear on the route sheet. Or let's say they get a new combination for the lock, and that's been communicated to you. You could come in here, edit that, and by hitting save permanently, it will update the job for this job for that customer. One other thing too is just to review materials. If in this column you see adjust, that means there are materials associated with this service. Add means there are not, but you can still go ahead and add materials. And that can be done even after a job is recorded and saved. You can go ahead and hit adjust in the materials screen and then come in here, and we could add additional materials, or I can edit and say, okay, we actually used 3 bags of for bagging today. We've got a bit of a charge associated with that, and it's going to transfer that over onto the invoice. So I can hit save then. And that's how you can record materials. And as we'll see tomorrow, I hope, in the reporting, the material report will show you then what you have used for that. Okay, yep, there we go. So close this out. One other thing I did not cover, you are able to record weather conditions. Now, that's, again, most easily done in the app, but if you do need to note weather conditions, you hit the little expansion icon on the left-hand side, and then down here are the weather conditions here and any long conditions you might have set up. So you can then record those as you're recording work. Again, not to, beat a dead horse, so to speak, but many of the data entry functions are very easily done in the app. Recording start and stop times, grouping jobs is more easily done, recording weather information. So we do encourage you to consider using the app for at least some of your crews, those that you feel are more talented perhaps, because I know many folks will say, our guys just won't be able to do that. They can't handle it. Well, maybe they can do more than you think, but maybe you have a couple who can. And again, if you're saving yourself 20% of the time that it takes to record work or do data entry, that's more time to get another cup of coffee. Okay, so having done that, let's then kind of tie this into what we're doing today. When you've recorded a job and you've marked it as done, and you hit finalize selected, one of the things that happens is this job is now available to be billed. So we'll finalize that and just put Bob Hope in the billing system. Now, the billing system is this tab which says invoice. If you are integrated with either version of QuickBooks, this tab will say QuickBooks, but the following screens will be identical. So, that's what I meant by that. For all three invoicing methods, billing out of Clip, integrating with QuickBooks Desktop, integrating with QuickBooks Online, they all have this in common. Let's imagine we're going to do our end of February billing. So I come here and I choose February 28th, or if you do it March 1st, you can choose that. For various reasons, just ignore the cutoff date for now. We'll come back to that in a bit. The due date is when you want to have payment. So if you give them 10 days, you can put it in here. I know in QuickBooks Online, whatever terms you've got as far as the due date will override whatever you do here in Clip. I'm not sure about QuickBooks Desktop for that. Okay, so you have this set. Now, the rest of this has to do with some information, some of which is common with QuickBooks, some of it is not needed by the QuickBooks side. For instance, the style here is irrelevant to QuickBooks. Now, let me take a little bit of a detour to comment on that. So I'm going to come here, right-click. I'm going to open my customers, but in a new tab here. And I'm going to go into Adam Taylor's account. In the customer account, we have a billing format drop-down menu. This is relatively new to the program. If you've been using ITC for a while or tried it at some point in the past, are now just coming back to it, then this is new. And at the customer level, you can choose, if you want to, whether it's a statement customer or an invoice customer. And then this will determine what takes place in the billing section we're looking at. If you leave it at select, in other words, you don't choose for a specific customer what format you want, then back here, this will determine it. So in the customer, you can choose statement or invoice. If you do not choose either of those, then this will determine what type of form, what type of bill that customer receives. We're going to choose statement for this. Let me go back in here and let me choose statement for him so hit save there. Okay. Now, typically statement versus invoice, perhaps a bit of a side trip as to what that means. We have found in our years of working with Clip users, many of your clients, commercial clients, would require an invoice, whereas residential either don't care or prefer statements. Okay, so having said that, you can choose on a case-by-case basis. So Adam Taylor is a residential, so we'll choose statement here, but for a commercial account, we could choose invoice. With invoices in CLIPitc, when you bill, as we will see, it gives a unique invoice number. And when you receive a payment, you can apply the payment to specific invoices. Again, these are functions that are most relevant often with commercial accounts. If you don't apply it to a specific invoice, a payment goes against the oldest balance for the customer's account, which is like the way the old Clip would work. Another thing about statements versus invoices, a statement is most like, as a consumer, it's most common to what we see in, say, our credit card bill. The credit card statement has an opening balance. It will show the monthly activity, transactions, purchases we made, as well as payments we have made. And then at the bottom, there'll be a new balance, and it might possibly even have some aging information, what's 30, 60, 90 days past due. So that's what a statement is. It's basically kind of like a running account, taking into account what's past due and creating a new balance based on the past due plus our current activity. An invoice is more like what we would see if you go to your auto repair shop. So you go today and you're going to pick up your car that had the brakes worked on. You'll be handed a piece of paper and it'll say, labor. There might be parts listed there, environmental recycling fees, etc. And you'll have a total that you owe. Now, it doesn't have any reference to the transmission work done a week and a half ago that may not be paid yet. So there's no, so invoices are pretty much kind of discrete or specific to what's currently happening. So in this case, what's currently happening is we're billing February. If I do invoices, it's just going to show what happened in February with no reference to the balance from March or from January or last year. Again, so that's just kind of a little bit of pseudo accounting. To confuse matters, in an invoicing type of environment, they also have statements, but statements typically will show what invoices have been generated and are not paid yet. So it doesn't act quite like a statement does in that whole credit card situation we referred to before. All right. So with that background, so we've changed him to statement. Now we'll go back to this. Okay. So again, for those who you did not select whether they're going to get a statement or invoice, this will determine what they get. Now, sort by account number. Pretty soon we're going to look at a screen with a list of all of our unbilled work, and this is how it will be sorted. I can choose to include invoice notes, and so those notes were the ones we talked about a bit ago when we were looking at record work. You can choose to show time in, time out. Really, the only time I've heard of this being done are for contractors who do snow removal. They may need to show, according to the terms of the contract, that they were to, say, a commercial property prior to their opening, say. Likewise, you can put it on there just to communicate more because ice can build up again, and so the customer may come and see ice and think you would never perform the service. Typically, though, I don't see this used for landscaping. Occasionally, someone will say they put a time in for the customer to see when they arrived on the property, but not the time out. You don't want to see them. You don't want them to see that they're paying you $75 for 15 minutes worth of work, for instance. Okay. Include property name and description. Now, this is common both to billing out of CLIP and QuickBooks. As we looked at in setting up customers, you can set up a customer with multiple locations or multiple properties, and all those properties will go on the same bill for that customer. This allows you to put the property name next to the service. So that means that the customer, when he looks at his bill, will be able to say, okay, this mowing visit was at the rental house, this one was at my house, etc. Transfer zero transaction contract jobs. What this means is if you have a customer who pays you a monthly installment, with this checked, he will also see on his bill not only the installment, but every visit for the services that are covered by that installment. In other words, for installment accounts, you've got a couple of options. One option is you just list the installment on the bill, and that's that. The other is that you not only list the installment, but you also list each visit. But each visit will have a zero amount there. And of course, if you do some additional work, then that will appear on the bill with the price you're charging. Okay, so Joe asks, are those two billing formats exclusively to Clip or will they come over to QuickBooks? Those are exclusively to Clip. The default for QuickBooks is to create an invoice when it comes over for that. Okay, if you skip a job, you can include that information on the invoice. You have the choice of showing sales tax after each visit, after each line item, or a cumulative sales tax at the bottom. Include unused materials on the invoice. I have no idea why you would do that. Print statement for overdue customers with no activity. Okay, this is for Clip billing. If I have a customer where I did work in January, and I'm going to do February billing, but have not done any work on their account, if they still owe me money, it's going to also print a statement for them, even though there is no activity in February. So basically, we'll say it's 30 days past due. Include statements or invoices to be emailed and printed report. This allows you to not only email a bill, but also print it. Now, again, just to talk a little bit about emailing, we'll go back to the customer. To set up a customer to be emailed, you put their email address here, and you check the box for email invoices there. And we'll look at the template you can use for that in a little bit. Print bill to on the invoice, that just puts bill to next to your company information. Show first property, next to the billing address on the customer's account. Show first property as services rendered at. You may have situations where the billing address is different than the location where work occurs. In that case, this will add a line or two on the form that says services rendered at 916 Mater Avenue, Frederick, Maryland. And that's when you're sending the bill to a different. So that way your customer knows when they get the bill, say in their office, they're going to pay it from their office, where the work was done. Hide quantity. Quantity is basically the number of cuts that have occurred so far. So the 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th cut, that will not be listed there. Print $0 balance invoices statements. With this checked, it will print statements for those who have no balance. And then this will exclude customers with a credit on their account. So I'm actually going to turn that one off. All right, so these are the options. Again, some of them toward the top apply whether you use Clip or QuickBooks. The bottom ones tend to be more for printing directly out of Clip. Many companies offer an installment plan for customers where you total up the value of the services over a year and divide it by 12 for 12 months or 10 for 10 and so on. And then they have those 12 equal monthly payments. That way there are no surprises that they get a bill for $1,200 in the spring for the cleanup, and then a bill for $40 in August for 2 cuts or something. So it evens things out. Now you process it here. Now there is an installment message, and basically it's basic installment for the month of, and this *M* pulls the month that you choose here. So this would say installment for the month of February. You can edit this. We've had requests to do, first of 8 installments, second of 8, and unfortunately that's not easily done by development. So at this point, that's not going to be added, but there is a way that we'll see you can do that by editing it. Okay, Amy, again, the only thing you can do as far as printing email statements is here. Now, in your note, you're observing that in CLIPitc and CLIPXE, you could do that on a customer by customer basis. It's unfortunately no longer the case. So here you either email and don't print, or you print and email, and you can't cherry pick which customer, or you probably could in the system, but that's take a little extra work. So it's been shifted a little bit from CLIPXE for that. Okay, so my installment's going to be for February. I want the date next to it to be February 28th. And then I'd hit process installments. Let me delete installments. I don't know if I did that, so just to start with a clean slate. Now, one thing too, you saw I just deleted installments. If you are integrating with QuickBooks, in QuickBooks or desktop version, if you processed installments, it would put the installment on the list to be transferred. It would also put it in customer history. If you went in and deleted the installments from the list so they wouldn't transfer to QuickBooks, it would still be in customer history. Here, if you do delete installments, not only does it remove it on the list we're about to look at, but it also removes it from history. Okay, so I'm assuming I've got a blank slate for installments, so now I'll hit process, and it just gives me this little heads up that I've done it recently. I say okay. Now, if you come down here and are quick, you'll see a number here, but it disappears after a moment. So 48, yep, there it went. 48 records. So that tells me, okay, 48 installments sounds about right. All right, this is something I'm going to be firm about. Until you are very comfortable working with the billing in CLIPitc, never hit print all invoices, or if you are working with QuickBooks, never hit generate all invoices. Always go here first. And the reason for that is I want you to be comfortable that the information is correct and that you review it. And then later on, when you feel you're more competent or confident and competent, you can do the print all. Okay, so now I'm looking at all of my unbilled work. So here are the installments. And Acme has two because they've got a couple properties with different installments. Here's a line item I entered. Here's a regular work I've done. Here's again work we've recorded. Now you'll notice here you've got a little pencil on the side. So let's say this auto pay test, their installment should actually be $200. That there was a typo. So if you click on the pencil, you can come here and edit on this screen. Likewise, if you did want to do first of 8th installments, you could do some editing of the description here as well. And when you've corrected the information, you hit the check mark to save it. All right, so you go through here and you review all of this. And if things are, again, need to be fixed, you can click on the pencil and go in and fix them. And so everything looks good, looks good. Okay, so everything is good. Now you can check all these off and hit print. Or if you want to, you can close this, go back to the other screen and hit print all. All right. So, okay, I had a question about setting up installments. I'll do that in a moment. So we hit print here. And now what occurs is it creates a batch here. Now, it's actually creating two batches because remember, one batch will be for those who are flagged to be invoice customers, and the other batch will be those who are statement customers. And I hit refresh here, and depending on how many you've got, it might take a while to refresh. So here, this first one has 48 invoices, and this one has 1 here, so or 48 bills. Okay. Now, what you can do so at this point, we are current. All the steps we've just taken are common, whether you bill from CLIP, QuickBooks, or QuickBooks Online. So what we're going to do next is going to be specific to CLIP, and then we'll do it specific to QuickBooks Desktop. So at this point, because we're kind of at a fork in the road, we were asked about how to set up installments. So installments are set up in a package under properties. So you come here to properties and you've got then the packages that you would add. And one package here is the contract package. So this is where you'd set the installment. So here's the installment is the charge by type. If you do charge by job, it suppresses all those fields we were just looking at. But when you go to installment, now you'll see them. So contract never expires. You can set when it begins, whether you charge taxes. You can then come here, put in the amount, hit fill all months. And now those jobs are, the installment is set up, and then you come up here and hit save. When in the other screen we hit process installments, is pulling from this section within the customers who have an installment package there. Okay. All right. Now we're going to spend the next few minutes kind of calculate the installment. Can ITC calculate the installment amount? In XE, that was done under the job level. So if I go into a job, lawn maintenance, and I do the, maybe we can't, yeah, here I think it is, discount, let's see. Right, so here, if you know the monthly amount, you can then do, okay, let me just think this through. So $50 a month for 10 months. And 22 services. Okay, I apologize. This will calculate the charge for the job. So if your monthly amount is $520 for the installment, as for 10 months, and you do 36 services, this means each of the charges here for the job would be $144.44 for that. But I'm not sure if that's what you're asking, ZLC. Okay. Okay, good question from Joe. Yes, you can set up multiple installments. So in here, back under properties, we've got contract here, and these are for these two, green season services. We also have a winter services here, and this could be another installment. And then what you would do is, again, have it start, and then you can and let's say this is just, November through February or March. So you are able to set up multiple installments. Okay. All right. I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that, Z, about desktop taking a group of jobs times the amount of months and auto-calculate the installment amount. It would do that in the estimating piece within the jobs in XE, but that is no longer available. So you'd have to do it off to the side on a piece of paper. Okay. So where we left off. We now have these ready to be printed. So you would come in here, click print, and it's now going to show us a preview of the bills, at least one format. So this is again an statement here. So previous balance, payments received, balance forward, new installments, new total, tax, and total amount due. Likewise, here's the services rendered at. Again, we've got the previous balance, balance forward, installment for February, new amount, etc. there. And then you'd come and you'd hit print. And here now would be what your customer will see more realistically with your logo here, address, etc. All right, so that's one of the batches. Let's take a look at the other one. That should be an invoice. So we come here, and I'm going to hit print. All right, so here now it says invoice. So there's an invoice number, CI 1706. You've got the installment here. And so here's the tax, and here's the balance due. Again, no reference to any past due amounts or anything. It's just all what happened in February for this. Okay. Now, so that takes care of printing, you go here to see invoices to be emailed, or you can get to it up here, email invoices. This now is a list of all of our invoices that need to be emailed. Now I got a bunch in here. I've been playing around in here. So you've got some things that are useful here. You will show that if some of these have been paid. So you may not want to email those. So you can just check off the ones that have been paid. And then you scroll down and you hit remove checked emails, and those will now be taken from the list. And then otherwise you can hit preview invoices. So you click here, and now it's going to pull up each invoice, and you scroll through next invoice. Unfortunately, you can't just select one and view it. You've got to kind of search for the ones you want here. But this does give you the ability to eyeball things before they actually get sent. And you hit back to return to the list. And to email them, you just check all or cherry pick and go down to the bottom and hit send, and they will be sent. Now, one thing too is that we've just added it so that if they are flagged to receive a statement, it'll email a statement to the customer, not an invoice form. Okay, and so this would be an example of that. Let me, I think this would be an example. No, that's just really old. Okay, so what does that look like, the email? Well, I come down here and let me see if, oh, there we go. Okay, so this is what it looks like. So new invoice number 406 from Success Landscaping. Now notice it comes from service@clipitc.com. There are a couple reasons for this. One is if we send it from your email, you may not be able to use email. Many of you who use CLIPitc discovered that if you were using Yahoo or AOL and perhaps some other email providers, you couldn't email out of CLIPitc because each individual provider has certain rules that you've got to follow in order to have a third party use that email. Now, what we did to avoid those conflicts is to create a service at CLIPitc.com that's compatible with whatever email you may want, Gmail, Yahoo, AOL, etc. If your customer hits reply, it goes back to the email you have set up under settings in CLIPitc. Okay. All right. Now let's take a look at this. To view the invoice from Success Landscaping for 206.73, click on the link below. Okay, I'm going to click here. And now this is what your customer will see. Oh, okay, so this is actually an example of, so here's the statement here, CL406. Here's the jobs, basically $100, $200. There's the total here. If you use CLIPPay for credit card, the customer can click Pay Now, and it now takes them to a place where they can set up their payment. It also shows the total amount due on that customer's account. So you've got that option. Likewise, they can download the invoice. So if they click here, it will then show the invoice save, and I will go ahead and open it. So this is what the downloaded invoice looks like. So they've done some changing in the format for this for the email one. Okay, so that's how the emailing side works from this. So the customer gets the email, and it shows them the email that is currently, or the amount currently being billed, and a link to that. It also gives then, or you can set up this email, and we'll look at doing that in a few minutes. I have also added that their total amount due is this. And if they want to look and say, wow, you know, how did I get $8,000 behind? There's a link here that if you click on, it then takes them to this page. And this page shows all their past invoices, paid or unpaid. And they can view them here, and they can scroll through and look at all of them. So they can see that they did not pay back in August, and they can hit view bill and see what this looks like. So here's that invoice. You can communicate a lot of information then to your customer that way. And it's a way to use an email invoice to also show them where they're in arrears and to helpfully drive the collection process for that. Okay, now we're going to come back to our invoice section, because the next stage of this is, let's say you preview them and they're all fouled up. And you think, oh, I need to do this over again. In CLIPitc, we had a reverse billing function where you could undo the billing process. You can, that is available here. Now, again, what we just did, viewing things can be done before you send information to QuickBooks. So if you bill through QuickBooks Desktop, you can come in, hit print on the Clip side, view the content of what's going to QuickBooks. And again, if you don't like it, before you send anything to QuickBooks, you can come in here and do undo batch. So I'm going to undo these two batches here. And having done undo batch, I can come back to print, edit individual invoices, and everything is back on this screen. Okay. So that's how you undo the billing. Now, there is a new function or feature in CLIPitc as well, that in the customer's account, you see an invoices section. And under invoices here, you can do, in effect, reverse billing for an individual invoice. So I could come in here and I could delete this invoice and edit the work, correct it, and then rebill it. Likewise, so for that gives you much more freedom to correct mistakes that might have occurred in the billing process that you only become aware of after you've done the billing. So delete will remove the invoice, and then the content of it, which you can view here, will be available to be rebuilt. Likewise, if your customer calls up and says, hey, I can't find such and such an invoice, you can come in here, view it, and print it out or save it as a PDF and email it to the customer there. All right, that's the billing process. Now, there are some other billing-related activities to take a look at. So we're going to come back here and go through some of those. So again, under invoice, you've got single payment. If you connect with QuickBooks, you're able to enter payments in Clip, and these will then post to QuickBooks. Otherwise, you would come in here and you would select the customer. And so, let's say Anasetti did pay up, so $79.79. It shows what she owes. It autofills that amount. I can then put here check number and a little memo here, and then hit process. And now the payment has been done. This list here of customers only is populated only with customers who owe you money. If you're getting a prepay or a deposit and the customer doesn't have a balance, you can then come up here, hit enter prepaids. Now this will be all of your customers. So if you come straight to the screen, come here, don't find the customer, that may be they don't have a balance, and you come and check the box and search for them again. Now, I mentioned that you can pay specific invoices. So I'm going to, I wonder if this will let me, I've already paid this one. Let me see. Yeah, so that one's already paid. Okay, let me go back and find one that isn't paid. So CI is 1641. I hit find, and now here is that specific invoice. Now it gives me the total he owes also, so but whatever he's paying me, it would populate this. So again, you go ahead and do the check. And notice it'll memorize some of these for you to help with remembering to do that. I know that CLIPitc had basically it would auto-populate this with check number. And now fairly similar is when you start to type, you'll see those options available to you that your browser memorized. Okay, so then we do that. One thing, this only allows you to do one transaction at a time. It doesn't accumulate them and then process as a batch. Likewise, you'll notice nothing is displaying here, and I hope that's just something that development is putting this as a placeholder. Eventually, it will show them here. If you want a report, though, of your payments, you've got a couple ways to do that. You hit Reports, open link in New tab. So we come here, and there's a payment report here. Now, the payment report is time-stamped. That means that if, let's say, you receive payments, you come into the office Monday, check the mail from the week, and you've got payments, so you enter those payments Monday morning. Later, you get the mail Monday afternoon, and you enter those payments in the afternoon. Timestamping now allows you to create different reports for those two different times when you added payments. So we're going to do this, hit Show Report. So here now are the two payments that we got, check number, and I can export it to Excel if I want to print it out or save it, or for instance. But this is always available. You can run this report a month from now for this date range and you still see the same information. So this is one way to create the report for payments. Another way is here, so under History, because in the History report, you can set the date range you want. So we'll do that for today. But then I'm going to check Only Include Payments. Now when I hit Show Report, it shows it to me a little different format here. So here is the customer Anicetti. Here's the credit, the amount. It shows the check. Here's Adam Taylor. Here's that check. And it shows me again the amount. And so here's the total for the day. So this is another way to print the payment report out of the program. Okay, so we're looking at other billing type functions. So that's on the payments. Next would be create a credit memo. Credit memos are used to reduce your customer's balance when there's no cash involved. A customer calls you and says that the crew ran over the hose with the mower. They're upset. You say, well, look, I'll give you a credit of $20 for that. So you can come into the customer's account. So get a Heather Smith, do a date here today. The amount's going to be $20. And because I may want to, and then we put here, replace hose. Now you can associate it with a particular job, and then this means that it will show $20 less income for the lawn maintenance job. And that enables you then to have more accurate income statements out of the program. It's also going to ask you for an item. So in this case, I'm going to do lawn maintenance, and I'll then hit process. Now that has been assigned or applied to her account, reducing her balance by $20. Okay, next under invoice is process auto pays. Again, this can be done in CLIP. Oh, by the way, the credit memo done in CLIP can also transfer to QuickBooks, so it will be reflected there. So here under process auto pays, I have my customers who are set up to automatically be charged when they have an invoice. So again, if I go into the customer screen here, that's a setting for the auto pay. So it says if they don't want to be auto charged, you have it at this. Otherwise, you'd add the card and you'd see the card here that is being used for that. Also, with CLIPitc, you're able to pass on the credit card processing fee of 3% if you choose to do so. That way you don't have to pay it. The customer will have that added to their bill for the privilege of paying with a credit card there. Okay. So next, back under invoice. So the process auto pays, here they are. You just check them off and hit process. If they fail, you'll get a message here that they did not go through, and you can try it again a day or two later. You can edit the amount here if you want to, so that you can do a different amount if they call you and say, hey, yeah, can you go ahead and add such and such to that? You know, maybe they want to pay another invoice too. Additional charges. Additional charges have to do with if you do additional one-time work for a customer. Now, we looked at this when we were looking at record work. So you go into the customer's account. So Paul Miller, and it's going to be $50, and we can call it a dumping fee. And you can write more information here. You can check off if it's taxable. You hit process, and now it's in his account ready to be, it's in his history showing this was done, and is in the invoice ready to be billed for that. Okay, mapping, that has to do with more of the linkage to QuickBooks, so we'll see that in a bit. And now, again, if you bill from CLIPitc, again, without QuickBooks, you've got some things to help you a bit with your collections. One is unpaid invoices. You're able to come in here and look then at invoices. So let's say that you want to see what's happening from November. What do you have that's still unpaid? So you can come here, set the date range to the month or the time period you want, and then hit Show Report. Now, here are all the unpaid invoices that were generated in November. Got 118 of them. Oops. And you can then come in and print these. You can stamp, past due and mail them to the customer. And this can also, so this is not easy to email from this, but we'll look at that in a moment. So this is how you can start, with collections here. If you do want to email past due bills, then you would come back into the invoice screen here, go to see invoices to be emailed. And if you scroll down, you see view past batches. I come here and I have this, I can sort by date. I come into November. So here now, I'll just see random here, the 30th. So this is unpaid. I can come here, check it off, and send it again. Now, if you send it again, you may want to have a bit of a different message, since this is past due. So we'll look at how you set that message in a moment. But this is how you could email past due invoices to folks. Likewise, there's a report. So we'll come back to the report screen, called an account balance report. This now shows you who all owes you money and how much. So these are the folks, and so he's, way past due, Stark, Trump, all these rich people, Bill Gates here. So this can help you again with your collections. It shows you phone numbers so you can call them. You can dump this into Excel to make a call list if need be. You also have your AR report here. And again, we'll look at these perhaps in a little more detail on tomorrow. And so here's your AR report, and so we expand it so we can actually read it. So here now are days overdue. The negative means that these were like net 10, and we haven't gotten to the end of the 10 days yet. So really, this won't start being overdue till 4 days. 45 days past due for this invoice, 2 weeks, and so on. So this is your AR report. If you scroll to the bottom of it, you'll see a grand total down here of a whole bunch of money. All right, so one last thing. Okay, I mentioned that you can set up an invoice template for email. So that's done under customers, marketing emails, invoice emails. And so this is where you can edit this. And what I've done is I have added a couple of fields here, and you can expand the size of the font. And so here is to view the invoice from Success Landscaping 4. And we already saw this on the email we were looking at a bit ago. Link to the invoice. The total amount is pulled from the customer's account, and then the link to their invoice, the overview of invoices. If you are going to send out a past due reminder for folks via email, you would come in here, change the message and send out the past due, then come back and change it back. Right now, you can't do different templates, so you might want to copy and paste this out of here and then paste it back in when you're ready to restore the month-to-month verbiage for that. Okay. All right, take a deep breath. And now let me check on some of the questions. I know they've been coming in before we move into the QuickBooks. Oh, wow, a lot of questions. Okay. Okay, will you be walking through SEP installments? Okay, did that already. Will those installments show up differently when creating an invoice, i.e. separate names? They can. You would use the invoice node under the installment to give more specific information about that installment to contrast it with the other installments, Joe. Can the customer be both installments and per job? Yes, you would create two different packages for those types of services. So you create an installment package, and then the jobs that are included in the installment would be added to that package, and you'd have a second charge per job package. Can we use our own letterhead for invoices? No, you can just put your company logo on the CLIP invoice, but the CLIP invoice is locked in. Yes, if they didn't pay January invoice, if you have the print invoice for people with no current activity, it'll then print out from the balance from the previous months. Can you edit from the view invoice field you were just in? Okay. I'm not sure what that was, Amy. I think we've got a call tomorrow. Maybe we can talk about that then. Do you have to print invoices that were emailed? No, you don't. You can. So that's that setting. So if I come back in here and we go to invoice. Why did you do that to me? Okay, so we come back to invoice. If you don't check this, it will not print the ones to be emailed. If bills sent from CLIP email, we don't have it in our sent mail folder. That's correct. You will not have it in the sent mail folder. I'm not sure what you mean that is there a way to prove that it was sent previously? I mean, in the email screen, you'll see whether it was delivered or not. So that's one way it might be proven. And every email that goes out of CLIPitc is sent from the service at CLIPitc email address. Can you put the payment in QuickBooks, or it has to be in CLIP? You can enter the payment in either program. With QuickBooks Desktop, though, if you put the payment in QuickBooks, it will not come back over to CLIP to show a payment has been made in CLIP. If you put the payment in CLIP, it'll show that listed in customer history within CLIP that a payment was made, as well as see that in QuickBooks. That means if you have employees who you want to be aware of the billing, but you don't want them to have access to QuickBooks, then they'd be able to see a lot of information on the CLIP side if you enter the payments in CLIP. Okay, print on a QuickBooks deposit slip. I will put that down. Thanks, John. You're not the first one to ask that, but that's a good reminder. Okay. Print button in the payment report. That's been asked of them. I'll do it again. When you're in, okay, tax report where, oh, Ed, thank you, Edgar. That's a great question. So for sales tax, you come into, again, we'll come here and go to reports from here. Within the reports, you have the sales tax report here. Now, unlike CLIPitc, when you did billing, you pretty much had to print the report there and it would save it. You can print this report at any time. So if we did just do the February billing, we'd come here and we could do detail or summary, show report. Now, I may not have anything in here, so we'll hit refresh for this and then print. And then here would be the detailed report here. And if I wanted to, I could come back here and change it to a summary report. And again, it'll generate one here. You've got some description as to what that is. Refresh, print. And here now is the summary report. Okay, we're going to minimize this, and then we're going to come in here to CLIPitc. And this is ITC, QuickBooks Desktop. Log in. Okay, now before we go to the QuickBooks tab here, but before we go there, a couple of other things. So here in customers, if you're billing with QuickBooks, so we'll go to Acme Tires here. You have here the QB customer, so, and also the display name. So the display name and QB customer should be the same. And the display name is what shows up in QuickBooks. So here's my QuickBooks and here's Acme Tires. So here's the customer name here. And here's the display name. So notice those are the same. And you also will see here all your QuickBooks customers. And if for some reason this says disconnected, you can open this up and navigate down to the right account to make sure it's connected to QuickBooks. So this is one way you have QuickBooks, and you can see what the connection is between a customer and Clip and in QuickBooks. For QuickBooks Online users, you can set up sub-customers and choose to bill with a main customer account. But again, that's a QuickBooks Online thing we're not able to really demonstrate here. Likewise, under Jobs, you will have the item from QuickBooks, and if you use them, you'll have the class. So this too is something that's imported from QuickBooks, and you would then do the mapping to line these up to make sure that basic maintenance, for instance, has the correct item associated with it throughout the system. So those are very similar to your previous experience with QClipXE, where you have the QBID number to link the customer to the right customer account in QuickBooks. You have the items and classes imported from QuickBooks assigned to jobs in Clip. The item is also associated with the installment. So if you do have an installment here, again, there's an item to be selected here. Okay, so now we've got kind of some basics under our belt. And we go to the QuickBooks here. Notice you've got pretty much the same options along here, except for the sync log. Now, one thing that's new is that in QClipXE, you build from QuickBooks. It would not create an invoice or bill from within Clip itself. That's different. Now you will have the invoice not only able to be sent to QuickBooks, but it will be created in Clip. And there are some reasons that might be beneficial. For instance, if you wanted to, you could email your bills out of Clip with the payment link. And so you could use ClipPay and save money on QuickBooks credit card processing fees. possibly, or you can email them from QuickBooks. So you've got some more flexibility that might come into play in your specific situation. But everything we've covered so far would be the same. You'd have all these same, pretty much all these same options here. And then you come down, you process installments the same way. Go to generate, edit individual invoices, and here are all the unpaid invoices here. So what you would do is you would come in here and you would then check off what you want to bill. So let's say this basic maintenance, I should correct the price here. So this is actually $50, and I save it. So I come in here and I check off this for Acme Tires. And likewise, I didn't highlight this when we were looking at billing from CLIPitc. You can do billing at any time. You're not tied to a monthly billing cycle in CLIP any longer, which means that if there's a snow event mid-month, you can bill it right away. It'll create a true invoice for that event. If you do a large cleanup mid-month, you can bill that out again without waiting for the end of the month where you're billing out your work. A couple other things. I have checked one item. When I hit generate and pull it and then bring this over to QuickBooks, it will create an invoice with this one item. If I then come back to this screen and check off the rest of these for Acme Tires, it will not add those to the invoice already created. It will create a new invoice in QuickBooks. So whatever you check off here, when you hit generate, everything that's checked for that customer will be on a single invoice. So just keep that in mind as to, some people think, oh, well, I can go in every day after I record work and I can send that over to QuickBooks and then open up QuickBooks and it'll just be one invoice. No, you'll have an invoice for each day. Basically, you transfer it over for that customer. Okay, now instead of print, this says generate. So I click generate there. Same thing happens. Here's the batch that's created. I refresh. And this is kind of optional. You don't have to do this. But again, it gives you a preview prior to synchronizing with QuickBooks. So here's the preview here, basic maintenance. He's got credit on his account. So there's his new balance there. So this is what CLIP shows. Now, there's an additional step you have to do, and that's in QuickBooks. So I come over here to QuickBooks, and I come up to File, and I now have Update Web Services. Now, in newer versions of QuickBooks, this would be app management, like application management, and then you'd have a sub-menu with two links, including Update Web Services. So I click Update Web Services, and now here on my other screen, this pops up. So I come in here, I check this, and hit Update Selected. Now what this is doing is it's communicating with CLIP, and it's pulling in what I just sent from CLIP in terms of the invoice, as well as it's synchronizing any updated customer information and other changes that might be relevant to that. And now it's finished. By the way, you can set an auto run for this. I don't recommend it, and that may just be a personal quirk that I prefer having more control over this process, but you do have that option. So now I minimize this, and here is my invoice in QuickBooks. So, excuse me. So to the date of the 22nd, basic maintenance, $50. Here's the tax. So this is what you would then email or print out of QuickBooks. And as you may know, you can do batch emailing and batch printing. So I come down here, hit print invoice. Okay, so here I'm applying a credit to this. Done. Okay. Oh, okay, I don't want to print. Maybe I don't have stuff to be printed. Okay. All right. Yeah, it just looked like I had one invoice to be printed. And likewise, if you do have batch emails, you can come here, File, Send Forms, and then it would bring up this screen. And you'd have listed the emails that need to be sent. And then you can send those. Okay, as I mentioned, you're able to enter payments in CLIPitc and have those post to QuickBooks. So I come back here, go to single payment. Now, Acme doesn't have a balance, so I will come in here. And that's how I would then enter the payment for him. One other thing to look at, if we go to customers in Acme Tires, and we look at the invoices for him, it actually uses the QuickBooks invoice number from here. So it will show you on the clip side what the QuickBooks number is that was generated in QuickBooks. Okay, so let me see. He said, let me go up a little bit. Okay, you said item and class on the jobs page under customers imported from QuickBooks. Aren't they exported to QuickBooks? No, items are a QuickBooks thing. So that's up here under lists, item list. And this is basically a way of getting like sales reports out of QuickBooks, is you have these different items, which can literally be things that a company sells. But in this case, they're services that are done. And then when you bring information over from Clip, it will then update these different categories based on the item that's located in the jobs on the Clip side. But this is created and cannot be edited from Clip. You can change what item you want in a given job, but you can't create an item in Clip for that. After I transfer an invoice to QuickBooks and record the payment on the QuickBooks side, will it show up in ITC as paid? Only if you know, it will for QuickBooks Online, but not for QuickBooks Desktop. You have to actually enter the payment in CLIPitc to apply it to that, to show it applied and the payment and the invoice to be paid in Clip. No, and it will not show, ITC will not show an invoice that was created directly in QuickBooks. Now, one thing with QuickBooks Online, if you do have a discrepancy. So let's say you do create an invoice in QuickBooks Online so that the customer's balance in QBO is different than the balance in ITC. ITC will create a line item to even out the balance. So if QuickBooks Online shows the customer owes you $50 more than ITC shows, ITC will create a line item for $50 in account correction to bring its balance in line with QuickBooks Online. Okay, will the invoice be set to the email or print preferences set up in QuickBooks when posting? If you have that, if you have in the customer screen here, so let me go back into CLIPitc and we'll go to the customer. If you have an email address and email invoices checked, then it will flag the email created in QuickBooks to be, it will flag the invoice in QuickBooks to be emailed for that. Okay, what happens to the batch after it goes to QuickBooks? Nothing. The batch is just, I mean, you still see it listed on the billing page here, If you happen to delete the batch or undo it here, you need to go in and actually delete the invoice from QuickBooks. It won't reach over to QuickBooks and undo that. It shows the status here, invoiced and synced. So it does show I've synced it to QuickBooks. But the batch just is here, and then it's created today. So tomorrow it'll be gone, and you have to look at View Past Batches to see it. Can you review charge credit card processing fee options? Yes. What that means is, again, at the customer level, you can choose if you're processing a credit card. So you have the credit card set up. Now, whether you auto charge or not, and you can check this box. Now, in checking this, what that means is that when you do your billing, it will add 3% to the total with a line item, credit card, programming fee or something. And then that will appear on the bill, and it will also be processed when you do the payment for that. It'll show on the customer's balance for that. And again, it's 3% is, I think, it might be give or take a fraction. So if the customer owes you $100, if they pay with a credit card, it will actually charge them $103, and it'll put a $3 debit on their account. Zach or ZLC is saying, to help with the email sent issue, so this is for Amy, I CC my company email and every customer email that was sent out from QuickBooks. Well, what you can do, Zach or Z, I'm not sure what your first name is, but you could here put, so here's Mike Balick, and you can email to him. You could put your company name or company email here and put email invoice, and then it would send it to you as well. So you could use one of these additional fields for your company, and that way you get what the customer gets. So I think that's a great idea. Thanks for sharing that. How do you get the display name and QB customer ID? The display name is created when you create a new customer. So let me just go through that real quick here. So I come into Find Customer, New Customer, Close. All right, so if I come here and I want to enter Joe Namath, so notice I entered Joe and look down here at display name. Now I come over here to Namath, and now here's the display name. If it's in here, if I have two Joe Namaths, I can come in here and just add like an asterisk or a single quotation mark or something. Then when I save this and send it to QuickBooks, when I save this and synchronize with QuickBooks, it'll go over. So let me okay, no, this isn't going to help because my location is Costa Rica. Okay, so 912 Mater Avenue, Frederick. So I hit save here. Okay, so here's Joe Namath. I come to QuickBooks. I find my little update web services. And I'm going to update it again. And let's see if Joe comes over. Okay. All right, so now we come in here. There's Joe Namath for that. Steve, that's referring to the QB link, and we'll have to have a separate conversation about that because that is now subsumed under the items and classes in QuickBooks. So we don't do that the same way, and I may have to get Dave actually involved because I think he can articulate that much better than I can for that. Okay, can you modify the credit card fee? I believe so. Let me just look in the ITC for that because that setup is under settings here. So you go to settings and company info. So I think you'd have to tell us what you'd prefer it to be, and we can set it for you. So let's say that the credit card company is charging you 3%. You want to charge your customers 4% or a different amount. I think we can work with you to get that modified or customized. Okay, now we had an original question about, so let's go back to Joe Namath because I want to see something there about that QB. Yep. So he is now on this list of customers. Okay, is there a global replacement to add our email address and email invoices on every account? Amy, I think that the support might be able to do that, or development. They might be able to push out an email address to, say, the 4th email field and flag that. So I would say check with them through the chat. When they're a new customer through the lead map, will ITC catch duplicate addresses? Well, it won't, but you would, because if you look at the lead map, you'll see that the flag for the new one is right on top of an existing one there. So, but you're right. Let me make a note of that. I think they've talked about allowing that, but let me just, or creating that. So, but I'll make a note of it. If I do not check sort by account number, the invoicing screen will list populate in ABC order. You know what? I'm not sure. So let's come back here and look at that. So we come here, sort by account number is what it is now. Let me uncheck that. And really the sort is kind of semi-useless because when you're in the screen, so here it is being sorted alphabetically. You can just sort by whatever column heading you want to get, so you got different ways to, and then of course by customer name to sort it alphabetically. So the initial sort might be by account number, but you can change that sort easily enough if you want to do that here. Okay, boy, we've been going 1 hour and 18 minutes now, so I want to begin wrapping it up. If you have specific QuickBooks Online questions, let me know directly, Bill C at CLIPitc.com. Likewise, Steve and others who used what we call the QB link, let me know and we will talk about the best way to utilize that functionality. I think it's primarily by billing out of QuickBooks, or at least allowing that to be transferred to QuickBooks, because again, I think the item will update those credit debit accounts appropriately for that. Good question. Since emails to customers come from service at CLIPitc, has anyone had issues with emails going to customer spam folders? Not that I've heard of. One company I met with outside Chicago a couple weeks ago, they sent out kind of an introductory letter, I think out of their company email, just saying, hey, we have a change in our billing system. You're going to start getting emails from service at CLIPitc.com. That's really from us. And so they did some preliminary preparation for their customers to maybe avoid that. I think in their email they said check your spam folder if you don't see an email when you usually do from us. But I've not really heard anything. It may be happening. I mean, I'd be surprised if it wasn't. So that may be an issue that has to be addressed. But I don't think, again, from what I haven't heard, that it's a major one for that. Okay, so tomorrow's our last class. We're going to look at reports, and we're going to spend time on custom reports. I think you'll find it is easier, friendlier to do custom reports out of ITC compared to CLIPitc, but we will see. The proof is in the pudding for that. Just looking and seeing if I've got, no, I don't think I've forgotten anything, but if I did, I'll try to bring it up tomorrow. Feel free to email me with ideas, suggestions, etc. And I hope that you guys have a good afternoon, and we'll talk tomorrow. Bye-bye.